Now we were discussing about the design, and since web applications are ubiquitous now, and most of the programs, most of the applications, most of the activities, they are now being on the internet, on the web, or they are made for to be utilized on the internet or on the world wide web, or made in certain way so that it can be accessed on web. So it becomes very important to understand what are we going to design, because conventional design, we have talked about structured designing and object oriented designing. These are two strategies. In this we talked about the architectural, the component, and various other aspect, pattern design. Now what about the web app design? This became the invent of and the influence of internet has gone so much that now we need to understand how we are going to design a web app, because now it became, this designing has become more prominent than the other designing. So design with the web apps. So Nielsen has to say that there are essentially two basic approaches to design. First is your artistic ideal of expressing yourself, and then the engineering ideal of solving a problem for a customer. So there are two aspects what Nielsen has said. One is being artistic, and second is to solve a problem of a customer. So when should we emphasize web app design? When content and functions, they are complex. Otherwise, if you want to design a web app which is not so large, or it can be just solved monolithically without even going to modularization and other design concerns. But when we have a complex function and content with or inherent in a web app, then you need to go for the web app design. When the size of the web app will encompass or will comprise of hundreds of content objects, various functions and analysis classes, and when the success of your web app will directly impact the success of a business. As I mentioned earlier also, eBay and Amazon, they are not a success, they are not worldwide just because they offer good services, but they have a very good web application. The web application is very easy. Just by one or two click you can buy things. You don't have to enter so many things. There are suggestions also, there are customer ratings, you can read it. I cannot express those things which they have given to us, and that's why there may be so many good options than these two or three names. But why people are after them? Why people are buying things on eBay, Amazon? Why they are so popular? The basic reason is they have a very good web app. I'm not saying that they may be, they are just a kind of portal, or they are just an e-commerce website actually. But there are certain web applications that I'm just trying to compare your web application with those who are already in success, who have already tasted success, and they are the giants in their field. So web app quality. Now web app quality and the quality of conventional software, they have a lot in common. Alcina and colleagues, they have prepared a quality requirement tree, which you see here on the right side, that identifies a set of technical attributes like usability, functionality, reliability, efficiency, and maintainability that would lead you or me to a high quality web app. And this work is being summarized here, and the criteria which is shown here are of particular interest if you are actually designing, building, or maintaining web apps over the long term. There are certain websites, web applications that are there with us for a decade, maybe more than that. So for those web apps or web applications, these become very important because they have these qualities. So when you are designing, we need to understand these qualities. So by usability, Alcina means the global site understandability, the online feedback and help features, the interface and aesthetic features, and certain other special features which are beyond the comprehension of your customer. You are providing them special things. Functionality, that is searching and retrieving capability, navigation and browsing features, the application domain related features. In terms of reliability, the correct link processing, error recovery, and user input validation and recovery. Then in terms of efficiency, the time performance in the response, the page generation speed, the graphic generation speed, and then the maintainability, how the correction can be made, the adaptability and the extensibility. Of it, he extends the 5 major quality attributes which are noted just now you saw in the quality requirement tree, but he added certain few attributes. That was security, that is rebuff external attacks, exclude the unauthorized access, ensure the privacy of users and customer, their data, their information, their credit card details, etc. And the availability, that is the percentage of time the web app is available for use, and this is the measure. This availability is the percent. This is basically the probability of the time the web app is available for use or is available to access, and the scalability, because you design web app, and this is web app is always most of the time evolutionary type of design. So can the web app and the system with which it is interface, they may handle significant variation in user and transaction volume. When Orkut was there, most of the social networking was done on Orkut. And then I was just chatting with one of my friend on Gmail, and he said, "Come to Facebook; it is very good." I was very reluctant because change is always there. We reluct. We don't want to go or change from Orkut to from one scenario to another. So he just on Gmail chat, he just asked me, "Come on Facebook." I'm on Facebook, and I just tried. I didn't want to, but I tried. And when I went to Facebook, then I never used Orkut. This is the scalability. How? Because I might be suggested by my friend to use Facebook, but just as Facebook came into being, there was a bombardment of the user. There was an exponential growth in the number of users. So how software or your application, I'm not talking only about web apps, even the software which you are using, if it has any link web app capability, a web interaction, then the number of users, if they are increasing, then the scalability became important, and the time to market, of course, because the time is very less. The other people, maybe you may know or may not know that you have Vodafone service, you have Airtel service, you have say Reliance service. Now what happens when Reliance has produced, or it has come up with certain new options. Now to cope up with these options, Airtel and Vodafone and all those in the race, they have to give the offers just to combat or just to keep their market share. So they have no time to do it. Reliance has done something, Airtel and Vodafone has to do it in no time. So there is no time in the web app. So this has to be done almost overnight, right? And what are the quality dimension for the end users? If I am an end user, what would I expect from my web application? The first is time. Time means I'm talking about myself. I can sleep 2 hours more or 3 hours more on any holiday. But when I am on web, or I am searching something, and when I am doing my job, I don't want even a microsecond of delay. Okay. So how much has a website changed in the last upgrade? How do you highlight the parts that have changed? These are the time, because people are very much worried. Okay, this was the application, my link was there. It is not, I'm not able to get it. Where is it? I'm so impatient. So I'm being a designer, I have to understand this psychology of the user also. The structural quality dimension for end user is how well do all the parts of the website they hold together. The links which are going outside of or inside the website, they are working or not. And do all the images work? Do I have any sign like this, or are these parts of the website that are not connected? And what about content? Does the content of critical pages match what is supposed to be there, or do key phrases exist continuously or continually in high changeable pages? And do critical pages, they maintain quality content from version to version? That means my idea or my thing which was very important to me, in the next version it was not there. I was using it, I was only dependent on this quality content or this critical page. It is not there. What about dynamically generated HTML pages, which is coming from say PHP or CGI or ASP or any other technology? So quality dimensions for end users, it also includes the accuracy and consistency. That means, are today's copies of the page downloaded, they are same as yesterday, or they are close enough? Is the data which is presented is accurate. And how do we know? How do you know? The time and latency, this is very important. Does the website server respond to the browser request with certain parameters? In an e-commerce context, as I was explaining you about eBay and Amazon, etc. In an e-commerce context, how is the end-to-end response time after submit is there? Are there parts of a site that are very slow and they decline the user of their work? What about the performance? Is the browser web site, a web browser, web to web browser website connection quite quick enough? I've pasted, I've typed the URL. Now it is taking so much of time for me to actually see the first page, that is index.html. How does the performance vary day by day? Today it is good, tomorrow it is not good. By load and usage, is performance adequate for e-commerce application? You know, if you have clear trip, say you have make my trip. Now you have searched from flight plus from one place to another, and you want a flight from one place to another, and I press submit here, I press submit here. Now this gives me the result in say 2 microseconds, and this gives me in say 10 microseconds or milliseconds, say. Then this is sure that most of the user will go to clear trip rather than going to make my trip. I'm just giving an example. So here the performance matters the most. The search algorithm which is there, and the way the web app has been designed. So there are certain design goals which we need to understand. In a regular column of web design, Jean, she suggests a set of design goals that are applicable to virtually every web app, regardless of any application domain, size or complexity. What are they? Consistency. Content should be structured consistently, always. The aesthetics or a graphic design should present a consistent look across all the parts of the web app. And the architectural design should establish the templates that lead to the consistent hypermedia structure. The interface design should define consistent modes of interaction and navigation and content display. The navigation mechanism again should be used consistently across all the web app elements. Then the identity. Establish an identity that is appropriate for the business purpose. Robustness. The user would expect robust content and function that are relevant for their needs. The navigability. This is designed in a manner that is quite understandable, intuitive and predictable by the user. The visual appeal, the look and feel, the interface layout, the color combination or coordination, the balance of the text, graphics and other media navigation mechanism must appeal to the end users. And the compatibility with all appropriate environments and configuration, whether it is compatible or not. My web app is working on browser, say Mozilla, but it is not working on IE, Internet Explorer. How I go about? So this is the web design pyramid, and in this design, the appropriate mix of design skill will actually vary depending upon the nature of the web app. So this figure shows a design pyramid of web apps. Each level of the pyramid represents a design action. Like we have the component design, the architecture design, the navigation design, the content design, the aesthetic design, and the interface design. So in web app interface design, there are various questions that need to be answered, and this needs to be answered very carefully and prominently. First is the interface should say, where am I? This is about interface. What can I do now? Where have I been and where am I going? So all these are very important. Then Tognosy has said, we have discussed it earlier also, but it is very important, that in terms of interfaces, Tognosy has said that effective interfaces, they are usually apparent and forgiving. That is, if it actually gives a user a sense of control on the application and what they are doing. The effective interfaces do not concern the user with the inner working of the system. That is, only those things are provided, or minimum things are provided that will allow, or that will actually power the user to work what is actually desired, not go to the details, internet details. Like I'm just saying, you have made an electronical or say communication based software or web app. Now here you want to ask user with frequency. Now if you want the user to give the frequency, he may type it, but the best idea would be give an option for the frequencies. Okay, 1 kilohertz, 1 megahertz, say 1 gigahertz, or like this. Okay. Now, this is good rather than allowing him or telling him to type, because he may not be able to, he may be a new user. Or say power, what is the antenna gain? So new user or a user may not be well versed with this. Give him an option. So effective applications and services, they perform a maximum of work while requiring a minimum of information from the user. The interface design principle in the web app goes like this. First, the anticipation. What is the user next move? Communication means various activities that are communicating the user with what needs to be done. Consistency, all the controls, menus, this icons, aesthetics, color, shape, layout, they are common and consistent. The controlled autonomy. In the course of the application, the navigation convention and the authority to facilitate user for the movement throughout the web app should be in the similar manner. And efficiency, that is the user when he is actually working, or the efficiency which we need to provide, this needs to be inbuilt. Inbuilt means because I may make a very good application, but I want that should be efficient to the user also. Then focus. Focus means the web app interface should stay focused on the user task at hand. I am designing it, I am very good at technology, but the user may not be. Fitts law. The time required to target a target is a function of the distance to and size of the target. So just try to minimize this time. Human interface object. There is a vast library of reusable human interface objects that are developed. Kindly use it. Latency reduction. When the web app is holding something which is multitasked, that means various users, they are working together, then the latency should not be say compromised. So latency should not be there. I am saying that. Learnability. The learning curve should not be like this. It can be very initially it may be high, but it should be like this, right? So the minimum learning time should be there, so that, and the memorizing also. When I come after 1 week, I must not feel that I am working on a new application. And the integrity, maintaining work integrity. If I have entered so many things in a form and sometimes something may happen, or I filled a wrong submit button and some fields are wrong, I must not be forced to fill each and everything again. The readability, young or old, everyone should be able to read. The state needs to be tracked, means the session control should be there. Where I left off, I want to pick from there only. Visible navigation. Visible navigation means the illusion that user are in the same place with the work brought to them. Not user has to run here and there to get the work. The aesthetic design has something to offer. Don't be afraid of white spaces. Emphasize the content. Organize layout elements from top left to bottom right. Group the navigation like this. Functions and graphically within the page. Don't extend your real estate with the scrolling bar. Let the scrolling bar not be there, or minimum as possible. And also consider that your web app should be responsive, resolution and browser window size when designing the layout. So while you are designing the content, you need to develop, or it develops a design representation of content object. You should represent the mechanism required to instantiate their relationships to one another. The content object has attributes that include content specific information and implementation specific attributes that are specified as a part of design. This becomes very important when you are designing the content design, and when you are coming to the architecture design of the web app. The content architecture, this focuses on the manner in which the content objects, they are structured for presentation and navigation. So the term information architecture is also used to connote the structures that lead to better organization, labeling, navigation and searching of content objects. So web app architecture, it addresses the manner in which the application is structured to manage the user interaction, handle internal processing tasks, effective navigation and present content. So web app architecture is basically dealing with all these. And the architecture design is conducted in parallel with the interface design, the aesthetic design and the content design. This is the content architecture, linear one, linear with option flow, linear with the divergence, the grid structure, the hierarchical structure and the network structure. These are the content architecture you may use in web app. Then we come to the MVC architecture. And the MVC and NTR architecture, they are very common in your web app architecture regime. So in this MVC architecture, which is actually the model view controller, the web app architecture describes an infrastructure that enables a web-based system or application to achieve its business objective. So Jacinto and his colleagues, they describe the basic characteristics of the infrastructure like this. Applications should be built using layers in different concerns they are taken into account. In particular, the application data should be separated from the page content. This may be the page, this may be the data, that is the navigation nodes, and these contents in turn should be clearly separated from the interface look and feel. So the authors, they suggest a 3-layer design architecture that will decouple interface and navigation from the application behavior. And they argue that keeping interface application and navigation separate simplifies the implementation and that will enhance the reuse also. So in this model view architecture MVC, the model contains all the application specific content and the processing logic, including the content objects, access to internal and external data information sources, or processing functionality that are application specific. The view contains all interface specific functions. The view will contain all the internal specific functions and will enable the presentation of content and processing logic, the access to external data information sources, and all processing functionality which are required by the end users. And what about the controller? This will manage access to the model and view, model and the view, and coordinates the flow between data between these two. This is the controller. So this is the view or the diagram of MVC architecture. In this model view, you have a browser and this is your external data. So in this, the MVC architecture, the browser the user will request the data from the controller, okay, and the controller will see the behavior request, or depending upon the what user has requested, it will manage the user request, select the model behavior, and will select the view response. So controller will be controlling authority of what should be done and what should be seen. And then model will encapsulate the functionality, encapsulate a content object, incorporate all web app states with of course with the employment of the external data. And the view, the data from the model, the view will take, it will prepare data from model, request update from the model, present view selected by the controller, and the HTML data to the browser, and it will update the request to the model. This is the MVC control architecture. So in navigation is very important because in web app navigation plays an important role. So navigation begins with the consideration of the user hierarchy and related use cases. Each actor may use the web app somewhat differently and they may have different navigation requirement. And the use cases which are developed for each of these actors may be novice, may be experienced. So each actor will define a set of classes that encompass one or more content objects or other functions. So each user interacts with web app and she or he encounters series of navigation semantic unit, NSU. So NSU is a set of information and related navigation structures that collaborate in the fulfillment of a subset of related user requirements. So this is NSU, navigation semantic unit. So in NSU, this NSU is composed of set of navigation elements which we call it as ways of navigating, WON. And the WON ways of navigating represent the best navigation path to achieve certain navigation goal for a specific type of user. And each this ways of navigation is organized as a set of navigation nodes, as you can see here, that are connected in a navigation link. These are the navigation link. And in some cases, this navigation link may be another NSU by itself. So therefore, all the overall navigation structure of a web app may be organized in this type of hierarchy of NSU, that is navigation semantic unit. So how to create an NSU? Here is an actor. He has certain navigation links, selecting a room, then he may navigate to recommend the components, the navigation for alternative, and to show the description, to purchase, and then to of course get the bill. So these are all the creation of NSUs can be done. And the navigation syntax, as we proceed with the design, our next task is to define the mechanics of navigation. That is, a number of options are available to us to develop this NSU or implement this NSU. First, we need to see the individual navigation link like text-based or icon, button or switches or graphical metaphors, or a horizontal navigation bar like this. So it lists major components or function strategies in the bar containing the appropriate links in general. So between 4 to 7 categories they will be listed, not more than that. Then the vertical navigation column can be there, a list of major content or function categories, and it lists virtually all major content objects within the web app. Then we have the tabs. There can be tabs. So the metaphor, that is nothing more than the variation of a navigation bar or a column representing content or function categories as tab sheets that are selected when a link is required. And of course the site maps. It will provide an all-inclusive tab components for navigation to all content objects and functionality contained within the web app. These are the site maps. So the component level design in our web app, this will have certain functionality. We need to implement certain functionality, that is to perform localized processing to generate content and navigation capability in certain dynamic fashion, and also to provide computation or data processing capability that are appropriate for web app business domain. We are making component for that, and which will provide sophisticated database query and access, and will establish data interfaces with external corporate systems. So this is an example of O-HDM, object-oriented hypermedia design model. So Daniel and his colleague, they have originally proposed object-oriented hypermedia design method, that is O-HDM, which is composed of 4 different design activities. First is your conceptual design, second your navigational design, then abstract interface design, and the implementation. So depending upon the work products, the design mechanism, the design concern, they talked about what needs to be done in conceptual design, what has to be done in navigation design, what needs to be taken care in abstract interface design, and finally the implementation. In the conceptual design of this O-HDM, the conceptual design will create a representation of subsystems, classes, and relationship that define the application domain for the web app, and UML may be employed to use appropriate class diagrams, aggregations, composite classes representation, collaboration diagrams, and certain other information that describe the application domain. So this is how you can see we have used UML for certain conceptual schema. And the navigation design for O-HDM, the navigation design will identify a set of objects that are required for components defining conceptual design. There are a series of navigation classes or nodes that will encapsulate these objects, and O-HDM uses a predefined set of navigation classes, the nodes, links, anchors, and access structures. And the access structures are more elaborate and include the mechanisms such as web app index, sitemap, or a guided tool. And in the abstract interface design and implementation of O-HDM, the abstract interface design action specifies the interface objects that the user sees as web app interaction occurs, and the formal model of interface objects called the ADV, abstract data view, is used to represent the relationship between the interface objects and navigation objects and the behavior characteristics of these interface objects. We are discussing the interface, and this ADV, abstract data view, this model defines the static layout that represents the interface metaphor and includes a representation of navigation objects within the interface and the specification of interface objects like menus, button, icons that would assist in navigation and interaction. So this was idea about how you are going to design the web app. Thank you so much.